think what I'd like to piggyback on, because what is very obvious, especially by the lack of turnout here and the responsiveness that we got, is there needs to be proper private sector lobbying in this country. We do rely on government entirely too much, and I have no problem with government. I think government serves its purpose, but at the same time, the people are the government. That is where a lot of my observation of returning to Dominica is the lack of participation beyond a bacchanal culture is just not with us. And we are not seeing the reality of what the world is like outside, and just seeing only this bubble that we've made it. And we are promoting these things in business, doing excellent promotion of the brand of Dominica being this wonderful destination for bacchanal. We're oversubscribing to that product in such a magnificent degree that it is piggybacking and causing a lot of societal problems, the main of which, as a woman returning to this country, male toxic culture is amped up. It's always been here, it's across the globe, it doesn't change. However, it is accepted here as an actual acceptable behavior by men, how they have quid pro quo across personal relationships, professional relationships, and that is an extreme impediment to businesses here for this reason. I have investors who wanted to come here. They have children. They're not interested in bringing children to a society of over-sexualized culture. What it is that they're bringing their kids to is bacchanalism, siboism, drunkenness, smoking pot. Like, this is what we are producing as a culture. And this is not just a matter of culture, it becomes a matter of how it impacts business. Because then you're dealing with investors who are not coming in, not interested in participating in partnerships with, not interested in laying down the ground investments that you're talking about. If you're talking about 20 to 40 manufacturing companies, sir, I can introduce you to 20 or 40 manufacturing companies interested in Dominica, but they have incredible amount of pushback. Not simply as the government is slow about timeliness of things, the tariffs may not be conducive as. We have multiple infrastructure issues, we have multiple policy issues. The tax revenue system alone needs to be changed. Yes, we get all of that. But there are people out there who are gung-ho willing to see Dominica as a pioneering industry and be able to come and put foot here. But when they come here, they come to neighborhoods with lack of law enforcement over public peace. There is a ridiculous amount of incessant dog barking that is left. Not a big deal. We are allowed to let dogs bark in Dominica to whatever degree they want. We have construction at every hour. We have bush burning and the burning of toxic paraphernalia anywhere without control. We have a police that don't respond to any of that. And I can say that as somebody who's personally experiencing that, but I am collecting data for the last 3 years of migrant experiences in Dominica, including returning Dominicans, who are having exactly the same problem. And these are people who came to Dominica to do something. They are interested in engaging Dominica for business partnerships. They're interested in doing all these things that you're saying that we need. Knowledge exchange, passing on, experiences to young people who may need to be exposed to certain other things that they're not getting out of the tertiary education here. There are people here, and there are people overseas who are willing to do those things. But we do not have very basic things in this country to manage migrant people coming back and forth, doing what they need to live a peaceable life while they're doing business in Dominica. And I have literally lost nearly $3 million in investor money because the man decided I just can't take the way that this neighborhood is. It's noisy, it's not managed. He was dealing with contentions with neighbors over that, no police response, and he picked up and left. $3 million of investment. And God knows how much of that is bleeding out of Dominica because we don't have data. That's another issue. But I hear all of you guys, but I think the private sector is not seeing these small things as affecting the private sector. And we're not gunning up and saying, hey, we're in it to win it together, and we need to do something together, because a lot of it is political here. I've come in, I don't know anybody. I'm happy to talk to anybody from any party, from any leaning background, religion, whatever, I don't care. For me, my focus is investment in Dominica. My focus is the ability to create a bridge between us, our diaspora, and foreign nationals interested in this place. So I'm game to talk with anyone. But even when people like myself come back and want to do something, we're coming into all of this discussion of politics, the nepotism, the continual cliques on each side. And then when we meet very viable people with great thoughts, I mean, Bernard, for instance, just gave a very viable thought, and it's a political leaning thought, right? But yet I still agree with exactly what he said. So now if I go over here and I agree with him exactly what he says, all of a sudden I'm Dominica Freedom Party, and nobody wants anything to do with me because I'm Dominica Freedom. This is ignorant. And unless we get to the point of dealing with some of these cultural issues, it doesn't matter how much we invite investment in this place. This is what people are dealing with when they hit the ground. And yeah, we can contend with, man, it's difficult to deal with these global tariffs. Man, it's difficult to deal with a government that is, still modernizing, still updating, still has their own old-fashioned ways of doing things, and this old policy and this old law and this old. We can deal with the headache of transforming those things over a course of years. What we cannot deal with the headache on is the ignorant way that we are kept out of things because of politics. People literally will not like you because of the color of your damn shirt. This is ignorant. How we are in our neighborhoods, another ignorant. Dealing with the police, another ignorant. You get a policeman upset in this country, all of them upset with you. So it becomes all of this, and that is why private enterprises see the smaller problems first and understand the need for unity, the need for not just these organizations, because almost always these organizations are filled with people with a particular political leaning. Tonight, we're dealing with an issue with political leaning. This is why some of the turnout is not here, because immediately people are seeing the topic, seeing who's invited, seeing the background of some of the people who support this business forum, and it becomes all of that. So it's not necessarily that people are not interested, but as you said, John, it's the high victimization. There's a fear of it, but it's an unreasonable fear and a reasonable fear at the same time. The reasonable part is that people really are legitimately victimized. People are legitimately targeted. People are legitimately experiencing the slowdown of their business, the defamation of their character, all this kind of stuff, simply because they want to do business, and it happens to be with somebody who happens to piss somebody else off. So how do we tackle that? And I'll bring it back to the private lobbying. How do we tackle that? Private lobbying by businesses. Businesses have to create a united structure that is apolitical. You cannot have this, one party this, one party that. It has got to be preferably an outside entity even, coming in and bringing a knowledge base, as Bernard said, bringing a knowledge base to share, but bringing it in a way that unites all businesses in Dominica. Tonight, for instance, you're dealing with, you want to get this wonderful discussion up and going. Guess what? You should have given that over to an events manager. Let them market it. Let them target various people, various organizations with influence, with movement and traction. Invite them all and allow them to be the organizer of your event. Don't put your name in a big flyer if that's necessary, because we have the culture that we have. Find creative ways to anonymously do things. Find ways to connect with one another and unifying without the politics being the focus, but the topic being the focus. So I don't want to rant on and on. It's just that private lobbying, business lobbying definitely is where I see a very big part of this happening, because knowledge transfer can come from that, because private enterprise working together, like you said, the exposure for a trade show. Very simple. Guess what? If 50 businesses in Dominica are within this lobby, and they say, all 50 of us are going to sponsor 50 kids to go see these shows every single year, guess what? Knowledge transfer is moving every single year. So I really implore all of you here to step outside even your own political leanings and understand Dominica will not move without reaching onto the other side. Because we now have this chasm. And unless people like myself who are returning and willing to do the work and willing to bust out with you guys, see some kind of cultural shift in mindset, we can't do anything. It's as simple as that.
I just want to say, like, I agree with what you said totally. We have to make a difference. And that is, for example, recently I went to the Expo in Trinidad and in Barbados. I tried to get some support locally. It didn't happen, but I paid $7,000 to go to Barbados. $7,000 for support in Trinidad. I did by myself. I didn't have the money, funds for my own company. So I think, we have to understand that Dominica is a very unique country. And having spent a number of years, I used to be a swimming coach, right? So I work with the very elite and the basic people. Dominica is a unique society. And to survive in Dominica, we must understand Dominica. I'll tell you something. I was on the board of directors of one of the leading organization in Dominica, the IB. And there was an experience I saw a gentleman was going through. Government policy was facilitation of investors. And he thought, was thinking, well, why should we facilitate investors? We should develop our own project and get investors come in and invest in our ideas. Okay? Now, understanding the culture, I look at the gentleman, his demeanor and his attitude. And his, his ambition. He had tremendous experience in the region in various parts. And I told him, I said, a guy, you're in Dominica. And you must understand the ecosystem that you're living in. For you to make things, for things to work for you in Dominica, you have to understand the dynamics of Dominica. Dominica is a very, very complex and stable unique society. So it's not how much resources you have, it's not how much education you have. It is your ability to use wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. For example, why we survive is because of my faith. I know that, for example, in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 7 says, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So you see, the fear people have, it is because we behave too much in our natural state. We must understand that the resources we create, such as biblical resources, power, own empowerment. And also, as you mentioned, like for instance, we import in the Caribbean and a lot of things that we have the resources, we produce cheaper. There's a study done represented by the Caribbean Food and Nutritional Council, and they said 80 to 90% of the food produced in the Caribbean region is imported. And most of the food you have here, but we will not take time to invest in technologies to bring in it. Some technologies are very affordable, but again, there's an issue of colonialism, slavery, and our people have not gotten beyond that yet. We are still waiting for handouts. People are too dependent on the system, and this dependency has paralyzed our people. So we have to think out of the box and move with the world, because the world is there.
Yeah, just to interject on that as well, I'm sorry, but the whole colonialism and slavery is still keeping us down. Yeah, I don't believe so. I think the Caribbean region is socialist minded. and that everything is government driven. And that is a patriarchal type of mindset as well, very similar to colonialism coming in and, you know, master and slavery giving you everything that you need. Same concept. We moved from colonialism and slavery into a high socialist thinking. The government, everything is driving development, everything that we get in our hand is from them. Therefore, people are in debt too, and everybody looks for the solution from government. And the part that we keep missing is that we are the government, because that elected government is only of the people. We are the people. Therefore, that part is missing on the idea of how we move forward as a people. It's not colonialism and slavery that's our problem, is we're still stuck in a government-centered solution to everything. And I keep saying it as a joke, but it's like taking a credit card at a $50,000 limit and asking to pay for a $100,000 bill. That is government. Government is not a profit-driven entity. Therefore, private enterprise needs to see and understand they have the leverage. They have the leverage. You guys are the ones creating the jobs. You guys are the ones, essentially, that create the voters who go say, yes, thank you, government, because we have these jobs. This is the leverage that we're missing in understanding where lobbying needs to take place. And it's not to be done in an aggressive manner. Like the big business lobbying in America is absolutely insane and does not make any sense to anything but greed. But there is an ethical way to go about it, in that government does have the ability to see that, yes, you know, you exist because we are providing the economy of this island.
Yeah, that's something
I'm
what
sorry.
I'm just saying. I agree with you, but we need to do more, and you all mentioned on Starbucks. I want to recognize Curtis Matthew. He's from BDS, has been there with us, and he always try to solicit the opinion of the manufacturer. That I really appreciate you staying with us, Curtis, and what you do for manufacturing. And Dominica is online. Thank you very much for the good. I thought you were doing well. I think this is a very healthy discussion. I want everybody to have an opportunity to say something, because I think we need more like this. And after this, we're going to continue the discussion. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I'm learning a lot, and the experiences that people are sharing, this should go further than here. And I'm saying that, you see, from an educational point of view, yeah, but where do we go from here? Because there's the need to prepare a plan, 1-year plan, 5-year plan. We have identified the challenges that we are facing to make this country move. But there needs to be a plan where we are now as to where we want to go, and who is going to be responsible for developing the plan. And there are bright heads, bright people with great ideas, but there need to be a kind of collaboration where the minds come together and we prepare a plan with action and responsibilities, so that we can move from the situation that we are in now to a situation in 5 years' time that we can say, well, we have laid a good foundation, and we can assess now to see how far we have reached. And I felt I needed to say that, because I love planning and direction, and discussion is good, but action, planned action, is absolutely necessary.
So I think we can start by coming together in our various associations and building our association. We can't do the whole government, and I know that I'm not saying none of us are really against the government. What we're saying is that there need to be exclusivity, and there need to be there need to be a wide cross-section of the community participating, because they have a lot of ideas that can change the status quo. So we're looking for a lot more inclusivity. But we want to work with the government. We want the government to work with us. And we think we can influence the government, whatever the government is doing, if we work more with the government. I think first of all, we have started in their way by putting everything in place, put all the foundational infrastructure in place. So let the Dominica Manufacturer Association propel manufacturing. We have also gone ahead and established the Meter Caribbean Manufacturing Association. We work with Barbados, Guyana, Suriname, Jamaica, Barbados and St. Lucia, and establish it. All right? And the CPSO is there working with us. And we are going. So we are well integrated into the system. So let us come together and do what we can at our level. And we will also make the government look good too. We want to make the government look. That's what we want to do. We're not there to fight against government. We are there to work with government and let us make the best of the possibility which we know how. Okay, so let's hear other people. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to say something. I think anybody said that yet.
Yes,
But you know what the population of Dominica, estimated population of Dominica is? 7,000 people. Yes?
Thank you. Let's see.
2011 or 69 plus, almost 70. In 2022 rather, 777 people died. And 658 babies were born. And we estimate 119 more people died than were born. Without anybody leaving Dominica to go anywhere, the country's literally dying. Okay? We have virtually no children and no youth. That is our big and fundamental problem. And unless we can get a handle on that as to how we're going to change that, because the economy is not a thing that is different from us. The economy is what we do. When there are no people to do it, and the people who I'm a young man in Dominica. Okay? We are only the young people in Dominica, that's us. There are no youth. That's a problem I predicted 20 years ago would happen, that we would have more people dying than being born. Everybody says I'm a crazy man. But you cannot make an economy move forward when the productive base of the economy, which is the human beings, are in decline, and particularly when the age of the population is shifting towards our age. You don't have all that many people to actually work. And then if there are no people don't work, then you have no customers. We get a vicious circle going backward. Okay? And then the question of, well, manufacturing stuff and so on. You can make $1 million by selling one thing for $1 million. Okay, let's say it costs you $1, and you sell it for 1 million plus $1 million and $1. You end up with $1 million profit. But you can also do the reverse. Sell a whole heap of stuff for $1 each, and then you end up with $1 million. Which one of those can Dominica really do and should do? To me, it seems that we cannot make a lot of stuff and sell it cheap. We cannot compete with anybody by selling anything cheaper than them at volume.
True.
Therefore, we have to base everything pretty much on high price and high perceived quality. When I say perceived quality, is what's the difference between a land handbag and a LPH handbag? Because the perception of the buyer. Yes? So the simple idea of we must produce a lot of stuff cheaply or cheaper than somebody else And that's how we will make things. We will not work because we cannot do that. For example, when you were doing bananas, if St. Lucia at any time had stopped producing bananas, we would be obliged to stop ourselves because the amount of bananas we have, us wouldn't pay the boat to take it to England. So unless we are realistic as to what we can manufacture and where the market is, we cannot manufacture a lot of stuff. However, we can manufacture things that have put in the public's mind perceived high value and sell it for a high price. Rather than saying, well, we must always try to produce cheaper than whoever it is. Fiji, you know where Fiji is? Fiji is in the Pacific. Fiji water sells everywhere. Why Dominica water not even selling in Dominica? And Fiji water doesn't sell cheap, yes. But it's pretty expensive water. Okay? And they're not going about selling, trying to sell water to me. I have enough money to buy Fiji water. Is that the guys like you can afford Fiji water? Okay? Just to give you an example, in Dominica here, I was talking to a permanent secretary of agriculture once, and he tells me, you know, the thing that's Mark is that you're not competitive. I say, what do you mean? He says, when he went to Martinique and he went to this supermarket, and they're having yams from Costa Rica, €1 and something cents a kilogram. And next to that is Dominica yam at $5.99 a kilo. You're not competitive, man. So I had to ask him, but you think the man who's buying the yam from Dominica and selling it for $5.99 is crazy? He says, well, no. I say, right, maybe you sell it for $5.99 and there's a sign over there. Both things saying Dominica and the Costa Rica, is that in the public's mind in Martinique, the yam from Dominica is worth $5.99, and we are not selling containers of yams in Martinique. We are selling boxes of yams. Therefore, we're selling a small amount of yam. The public is convinced that everybody can buy it. So the guys who can buy it, and if the volumes are within the capacity of what the might say small group of people can afford to buy yam for $5.99 can buy it. That's what I wanted to say there, is that we need to know where we are so that we can know what to run. And if we make errors in knowing where we are, we will not know where to go. You know GPS, everybody, right, most people, a lot of people have GPS. Well, GPS works like this. It knows where you are, and it can then, then you then tell it you want to go to, let's say, Portsmouth, and it knows it. First thing you must know, you are UE here. You then tell you go out there and turn north, and keep going all on the coast until you get to Portsmouth. If it doesn't know where you are, it might just as easily tell you go south, in which case you will end up in Scotland rather than Portsmouth. And what we're doing all the time is simply deciding Portsmouth is the place we want to go, therefore let's go west, which is out in the sea. Without knowing really, because we don't know where we are, and there is a kind of lack of utilization of the limited data that is available. There is some, there could be a lot more. For example, we don't have up-to-date figures on employment. So we don't actually have an official record of what is the unemployment level in Dominica this year. We don't have a record of that. Yes, it's a kind of guesswork thing, everybody is guessing, and there's a lot about employment, or there is not a lot, and so on. So, but there is some information that we have. For example, tourism. For some reason, most people think our biggest source of tourists is from the United States. It is not. Our biggest source of tourists are from the West Indies, which is just there. If you don't know that, then we go chasing after windmills like Don Quixote, and we're going to lose more. Yes? Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
I'm just saying one thing before you can continue. All right, what I'm thinking also, notwithstanding what you say, I accept what you have said so far, but I also think when you look at some of the fastest developing economies in the world, it's not because of population. Look at Taiwan, for example. Taiwan has the world's largest oil reserve. And you look at Dubai and so on. If you have, if you have creativity and innovation, things are happening in your country, people are going to come to your country. And this is what we're saying. The private sector needs to come together and force government to give them the support, create a enabling environment that we'll have. And also, right now as we speak, it might even be cheaper to import people to work on our factories. Because some of them have the trade, and then the cost, so the labor cost for them, because it will be cheaper to have them. So we need to think out of the box and think fast and think big. And it's like Josephine Gabriel. Josephine Gabriel is doing a plan. How can we come together with them, identify them, but instead of me going with my own plant, how can I work with them to do a private labeling operation for me in all my markets? And then it would increase their capacity utilization, increase their productivity, their efficiency. And this is the kind of thing, so that we can produce it cheapest, not necessarily cheapest, but we can give them reach and we can get other connection with other companies around the world. So we have to come together to make use of it's not about them alone, but what ideas do we bring to them to enable their operation to be more profitable and to be more efficient in the whole ecosystem. Because Dominica, we only have one bottled water company in Dominica, we're paralyzing it. And then we have about maybe 15 to 20 different waters that are coming into Dominica. And they are removing Joseph Gabriel, and they are taking their place. And we're talking about Joseph Gabriel. We have to understand that opinion leaders, our leaders, we must understand that people's perception is their reality. So when we speak, we have to be very careful that we don't affect we do not cut our nose to spite our face. So we have to be very careful about that. So go ahead, Marissa.
Yeah, I agree completely with what most everybody said tonight. I think we're all saying the same thing. The lack of population in the country, the lack of laws in the country. I don't think it's unique to us. I think every country, every developing country faces the same. We unfortunately have the bigger issue with the population. But what is the government's strategies, okay, to work within that framework? Okay, I'm not an economist, never did those things, so I cannot give you examples of how things should work. But instead of looking at, okay, we don't have this amount of people, we have X, how can we strategize to put this amount of persons to develop? 25 years ago when I moved back to Dominica is worse off now. So I have to not agree with your point with the whole colonialism. And yeah, we still have the slavery mentality. But 25 years ago, we were completely different. And rightfully, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Junella. As Junella said, we do not have laws. And the laws that we do have are not governed. They're not protected. Who's upholding these laws? And nobody's on a level playing field. It's, to me, even down to the dogs barking and stuff, you have people making noise about the coconut man. Can you imagine he has a hut, a sleeping bag, a bedroom where he's doing the whole coconut man story, However, we have about 4 mechanic shops that are taking up the entire road from Coptown to Bath Estates. I mean, there's no policing of what happens in the country. So everybody just does what they want. And there's no legal ramifications for it. So instead of, like you rightfully said, you come into, you know you have two producers of one drink, one soft drink. Instead of coming to those and saying, how can we help? You're going to find other people to bring more stuff, and the country can't hold it. So that's...
Okay, I want to recognize Mr. Lennox Linton, who has been here with us, listening very attentively to this debate and from the opposition leader. I would like to invite you to just tell us what's on your mind, what are you going to bring across.
Right. Didn't come here to speak, not here to listen.
Mr. Constance demanded to do that, so.
Okay, so all I will say is that I spent a significant amount of my time working in manufacturing in Dominica as a supply chain logistician. So a lot of the issues that I heard about tonight, I was up close and personal with them back in the day. And we have the capacity and the capability in Dominica to surmount a lot of the challenges that we mentioned here tonight, because we did that back in the day. Before 2002, where I worked at Coleman Products for Colgate Palm Oil, we were shipping out of Dominica over 1,000 22 containers of product every year to over 20 countries. We were largely an export manufacturing company because, of course, to the point about population, there's no way a population of 70,000 can support the scale of operation that we had here. But in order for you to do it successfully, you have to get into export. Because that's where the volume, that's where the volume is. I think John can understand that better than anyone else. So at this stage in my life where I'm sitting, I think okay to the departure lounge. If anybody has any question you want to ask me, that probably I can answer or help from the standpoint of my experience as a supply chain logistician in the system back in the day. I'm good with that. All right.
John, I think this discussion tonight is, basically you would ask, what is wrong in participating, for people coming to have this type of discussion that has been lacking in the country? And these are things that happen. I think this is where we see the erosion taking place within the society, that how do you get the young population to participate in a discussion such as this without having to tell them it's nasty business we have, come to us on zero. You know what I mean? It is mind-boggling and it's frightening, because what is actually happening is that the younger people who would be inclined to do it, they've gone. Our children are gone. And what is left right now, I tell you, is really frightening, because you see a younger population that is totally just degenerating, and they do not care anything about anything. But I will just give a quick one on water. In 2002, I think I was on the board of Glasgow, and then I can remember pushing for the water project for Glasgow. They actually came up with the Nature Island Water Company. I don't know if any of you heard about it, which was Charles Maynard and the South African guy who came up with it. And in fact, they had attracted a Canadian company that was willing to invest some $25 million into that company. They had actually made a deposit on purchasing the Unera plant at Jimmy, where Fine Foods is right now. And they did everything. And after those guys made about 6 visits to Dominica and everything was working fine, they decided to make the risk assessment analysis. And then they came up and one of the positive things that came out in the analysis was the quality of the Dominican water was second only to the glacial water. And you could not believe that they had just scooped surface water from a stream at just below Mount Wapiton and sent it to Canada for testing, and the results of that water that came back. So everything was running then. And then came the flip side of it. When they did the risk analysis, they checked the hurricanes, they put $50 million in Dominica, and every year they have to hold their hat in their hand as to whether their pipes and their thing is going to survive a hurricane. 2, they were pissed off coming to Dominica because every time they tried to make a visit, they had to lose 4 days. 2 days to come and 2 days to work. And then the other one was when they looked at foreign investment in the country, they could only count at that time. BCA was still around and Ross University. And this was basically the red flag for them to determine whether they really wanted what the natural disaster component of it. But it was when they did, Mark just mentioned Fiji water. And they looked at Fiji water and they made an analysis and they realized that this Dominica water was a seller. But then comes, we had money that we could have invested in this project without the foreign investors, and we did not. And this is where we are today. So there is quite a bit of potential, there was quite a bit of potential, and there is quite a bit of potential for taking advantage of our natural resources, as you made mention of water map.
But the question about water, for boiled water, seems to me to be a total non-starter. Let me explain that to you. Out there is the sea, but the sea is made of water. It just has salt in it. Yes? So, I buy water from the Wasco. I don't even know what the price is a gallon. Because the price of a gallon of water the Wasco sells me is so low that I kind of know how much I need to cater for it every month. But actually, how many gallons I use, I don't really know. And most of it I use it not for drinking, it's for washing dishes, clothes, and that kind of domestic stuff, for which I will not pay a lot of money. When I come to town and I go to a shop and say I need a water, I pay $3 for a bottle of water. And for that $3, maybe I get, I don't know, maybe 200 gallons of water from the Wasco, but I will buy the water in the bottle for a considerable price. And then I know about the project. There was a project to sell bulk water.
It was both bulk and water and bottle.
To the Middle East, where they was running water in the desert. But that wouldn't work, because among other things, I could transport the water in a the idea was to transport it in a
They're looking at balloons at that time.
they should not carry oil. Yes,
They're looking at balloons.
they go back empty to pick up oil and so on. But the problem is when you get over there, you have to pump the water out into a tank. The desert is hot. The water would be boiling in the tank. Yes, and then the same problem comes up about the cost of taking the water from here to over there versus getting water in a similar way from Europe. Europe has a lot of water you want to use, but that's not Europe, it's closer to get a lot of water there. So the idea that we could and should sell bulk water besides the cruise ships who come here and so on, then they need water for that purpose there, is to me not a viable thing. This is why I back to the Fiji water thing there. It would be much better and more economical for us, more money for us to bottle water and sell abroad.
Okay.
rather than sell water, even with the islands right here around the Caribbean that are dry and don't have much water.
But I hope you recognize that, you know, there is a saying that you need to use what you have to get what you want. That you need the bottlers of water, irrespective of how cheap it is, they should not be paying for water, such as those in Gabriel, to manufacture the product, because we are the only factors of production. All the variables are against us. So whenever you can get a chance to give them an advantage, you have to work with them. And this is where we have to
I think you meant lights.
No.
Lights, not water.
There's
You
the
meant to
water,
say-
even the water.
You meant to say lights.
No, you could get concessionary electricity. Alright?
Yeah,
But
I'm
even
just
the
saying,
cost of
water
the
is so
water,
negligible.
it's so negligible. But
So it's better if you don't charge us lights, and then we are good. We will reduce the cost by more than half. That's why I said, you know,
Okay, yeah.
and I agree with you.
So,
You cannot bulk water. What are you gonna bulk it for? For gardening purposes? Because water cannot get in contact with oxygen. Well, not oxygen, like the atmosphere, because it has carbon dioxide, oxygen. And you cannot just pick up water from a stream. You can drink it right there, of course. I've done it, we've all done it. Go to the river, drink water, open your pipe, drink water. But to transport, microorganisms have started to grow the minute oxygen hits. So I have to agree. Instead of bottling the water, instead of bulking the water, you need to bottle it and ship it. Whether you don't even need labels for it, if that's how you want to run it, or.
But I still insist that why the manufacturing association will make a case for you for electricity. We also believe that you should not pay what you're paying on water. But that's a discussion for another time. I would like to hand over to Mr. Bob. Bob, who is the president of the Dominica Business Forum, which is the apex private sector organization in Dominica. Nobody else, but the Dominica Business Forum. So this is Mr. Bob, right? Apex. The top.
Organization. No, I just like that, so I'm just trying to repeat it so I can remember it. But if you'll allow me to share my personal vibe on from listening to the meeting tonight, what I got from it is that there is a need for us to speak. There's a need for us to come together and say what is on our mind. And I think we have a fear that is not necessary at all. Proverbs 31, verses 8 to 9, it says, "Speak out for those who cannot speak. For the rights of all the destitute, speak out. Judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy." We need to speak. We need to have these forums so that people can share their ideas. And we have a fear that if we speak, we may be attacked. Someone will think we are either red or we're blue or we're green. And that I think is not necessary at all. Guess why I think so, right? I received a message today at 2:48 p.m. and I'll read it to you. It says, "Greetings, Bob. How are you?" I said, "I am fine. How are you doing?" And then the person says, "I was not invited to the panel discussion today, but wanted to attend. Unfortunately, I will travel this afternoon. I would be grateful if the recommendations of the discussion could be sent to me, following which I would like to have a discussion with the DBF. Please convey my best wishes to the panelists. God bless." Guess who that is? The Prime Minister. So he wants to be in our midst. So guys, let us come out and speak. He wants to know what you have to say. It is important to him, we know that. So that fear of not wanting to come out and speak is an impediment that we have created, we are holding on to, and we don't realize how it's impeding our development. That's all I want to say.
Okay, that's one.
Adding to that, I want to say thanks for coming out, guys. tell your friends that we will do this again, because there are people in this country, running our country, who depend on what we say here. We had a very nice meeting a few months ago, and they benefited a lot from that. The thing about that, they like to tell you, they come in at the last minute. So we just always have to, I still don't know why the Minister of Trade did not respond, although his secretary was in contact with me all the time. I really felt he was coming, but it seems as if the Prime Minister wanted to come in the place of him. So we would have had the Prime Minister here this evening. So let us come out and speak, man. Stop, holding back ourselves.
I would say two things, or three things quickly. The question of what we have seen over the years, the fact that Negroes involved, and Negro people who are on different sides, not fair meeting, discussing, making suggestions, taking their notes, and the governor always says, who are going to support. You're into business.
Yeah.
Nowadays, what have happened is, one set of persons, another set of persons, almost seem like alien to the society, simply because they're not in the same call.
Yeah.
And therefore, once they are in me, they attach, and you read the point earlier on, they attach color, artisan into it, and so forth. And they always feel when we go there is to support him or mixing matters without focusing on the issues that come from the country. So we talk, and we don't solve issues. Problems still there, so 5 years, 10 years, we still say the same thing.
Yeah. Because we never get strategic after any meeting. We don't gather any information. We do the same thing. It was saying there, basically, because we need to gather information, we need to know, okay, this is it, what's the next step? We just need to talk.
And even a quick example, when there was a dollar for at the PSU,
Yeah.
so people came in there, I came in there, honestly, I am in freedom. I'm a politician, I was 13 years, everybody know that. But I came in there with an open mind to learn, to contribute. When I arrived there, I didn't realize they had a site for red and a site for what I call it. I thought to come and do something, sit down. So I see Floyd, Captain, ushering. So I was going to say, no, what's it there, opposition side? And they're not coming there for that. Right? They don't some people on the other corner there. And to anything you say, from their table, they echo you. That's right? Because you must say what they want to hear. And that is dangerous. Another thing you mentioned, the question of discipline, to mention that too, and law and order. I mean, the system of government that all up broken down. I went to the casualty once, and there were two guys sitting there smoking marijuana in the casualty. And the security sitting right next to me, but wait a while, is that allowed? A security, two guys smoking marijuana in the casualty area. From the God, I expected to curse you. You never curse you, you got up. Today we are the court, and you see, a guy sitting right there in front of the court.
Not smoking, taking cocaine.
Taking cocaine and sharing in front of the court. All I did as a citizen working in politics was 14 years old, is to appear at public parliament in support against something that the Congress said. And I'm in court. But the guy sit down there. So they okay.
So what was the response of the police?
She went to the police.
When I went to him.
Well, first of all, before you, Hector John saw it and the guy signed. The guy started to say things, it included me. Also, the name that I went to him. When he came in the afternoon, she went to the office and the guy told me.
I said to the officer, how this man can be right here in front of you for taking cocaine? The officer said to me, don't come and disturb me with inside here. Let me tell you, take cocaine outside the gate himself. Right by the court, I said, officer, so selling the cocaine is a crime. So what about taking it now? He said he has nothing to do with it.
So the society problem is just
Yeah. Romeo,
yeah, that's so strengthen what Bob said. I'm a little religious, so if you want to talk to another religious, please get rid of it.
And I'm spiritual, so you want to be
You know what, I don't know about what keeps
Go ahead,
going.
Richard.
So, for example, Romans chapter 12, verse 1 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world. Do not conform to the system and the way things are done, but be transformed by your evolving and revolutionary mind. That you will prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. How to be the most perfect will, which is in Galatians chapter 5, verse 1. It says, you have been called unto liberty, only use liberty for an occasion to the flesh. But now, Moses said, he would rather suffer affliction with the people of God than to endure the pleasure of sin for a season. I am standing for Dominica's development. Whether they victimize me, I don't care. I am saying I'm not there for any particular government. I am beyond government. I am there for the development of Dominica, nationally, regionally, and internationally. Whatever support system I can bring with it, bring this country forward, and in whichever administration, I'm here to lend that to bear so that we can make Dominica not a third world economy. We make Dominica a first world economy where we use knowledge, information, creativity, innovation, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to bring our country at the forefront. There's no reason why we have, irrespective of all the circumstances. All other countries have unbelievable circumstances. Yet, there are people within the system that are able to come and revolutionize the circumstances. And there's a need for us to engage collectively and transform the world. We cannot let the status quo continue. We have to change it.
Thank you. With that said, folks, Dominica Business Forum, we'd like you to ensure that you get home safely. Thank you, and we'd like you to stay in touch with us when we have future events of this nature so that you can add your voice and bring two other friends with you and come and present. So thank you for coming on. Thank you, Boston. Thank you, Carbon, Mr. Murray. Thank you, my friend there. Elaine, who gave us a very, very good, strong presentation. Mr. Sabruch, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, DNO. Thank you, DBS as well. And we look forward to sharing your company pretty soon again. I feel we have to repeat this because government wants information from us. So, folks.